Welcome to Dark Docent. My name is Jake. Join me as I guide my friend James down the paranormal rabbit hole, attempting to prove the authenticity of a new case each week. Today's case: the phenomena of crop circles. How you doing today, James?
I'm a weird mix today. I'm tired, I'm awake. I've been falling asleep all day. I've had a Red Bull, had a beer. So I'm all of the above.
A balanced level of exhausted and not exhausted.
Something like that.
All right. Well, good for you. That's awesome.
We'll see how it goes.
I'm sure this episode's going to be exhilarating.
Best one yet. I can already feel it.
I guess I'll just go fuck myself. Who cares how I am doing?
How are you today, Jake? I value you and your emotional state at any given time.
I'm fucking exhausted. And I'll tell you why.
All you do is sit in a chair all day.
Not because of that. And also, I do more than sit in a chair. Recently, we did our episode on Dyatlov Pass with our friend Kyle. And also, Kyle, thank you again for joining us on that episode. It was really fun to have you.
Thanks, Kyle.
It was fun. We liked having our buddy on. I don't know if you could tell from that episode, but it was a big one. Dyatlov Pass is a very popular mystery, and I had to do a lot of research. And I pride myself on trying to get everything correct. And I still make mistakes from time to time. And that's because I work 6 days a week. I get 1 day off, and I usually like to spend that with my lady and my dogs. Of course, I got to make time to edit the pod, research the pod, things like that, which actually takes more time than people think. Usually after a big case like that, I like to come back with a smaller case and be like, okay, here's one I can do a little bit of research on. I can flesh some things out and we can discuss it. It won't be too taxing. So I did that with today's episode until I realized it wasn't as small as I thought it was. I was researching it last weekend, started looking up things, finding some stuff. All of a sudden I find connections and conspiracies that led me down so many damn rabbit holes that I couldn't stop reading, and I had to fact check so many things because so much of the things that I heard researching this case and I read about this case were so insane, I didn't believe them. And I kept researching and fact checking all week until literally right before you came over here. That resulted in every night, I didn't go to sleep till about 1 a.m, and I woke up at 4:30 or 5 every day. So I'm very tired, and I do this to myself, and it's okay. I wanted to get the story correct. But this case has turned into a lot more than I thought it was. Do you want to hear what it was?
I would love to hear what it is.
Good. Because I got a story for you. Even now, I'm making sure I get this right. Because I'm so nervous I'm going to fuck something up.
Just pretend like your phone's in its underwear.
July 1983, England. Colin Andrews is driving between Hampshire and Winchester. He is an electrical engineer for the British government. As he's driving, he notices a group of people looking at something in the fields. It appears that some of the crops have been destroyed. He pulls over and goes to investigate. As he gets closer, he realizes it's a pattern. Lots of the crops have been flattened and swirled in strange formations. 5 circles, making almost like a Celtic cross sort of pattern in the field. As they're investigating this, the farmer who owns this crop approaches him. Things like this happen all the time. Colin asks him what he means by that. This farmer goes to tell him, my daddy saw these, and my daddy's daddy saw these. And if you ask other farmers in the area, they'll tell you they see them too. This piqued Colin's interest. So he began doing just that, calling farmers in the local area. But as he starts calling, he realizes there's a lot more formations like this in southern England. He calls a farmer. He confirms that there's patterns in his farm. Another farmer confirms it as well, going back upwards of 2 generations on his farm. He finds over 400 families that confirm that there has been patterns in their farms. This seems to be much more than just a random occurrence. But little does Colin know, England is not the only place where these patterns have occurred, and they have now become a staple in UFO lore and a strange mystery that has plagued us for years. James, have you heard of the phenomena of crop circles?
You know what? I think I have.
Okay, what do you know about crop circles?
I know that they are circles with little lines in between them that appear in fields. And I think I recall hearing that they're fake. And I recall hearing that they're not fake. And that's about it.
Well, you know what? I was also very interested in crop circles, but I was like you. I have also heard that they're mostly fake. But as I read into this, I've come to find there's a lot more mystery to these than there was at first. As I stated before, some of these farmers have seen these for generations. And if we look back in history, crop circles date back hundreds, maybe even thousands of years, and we have records of them. The most popular one from the past that's been brought up in 1686 from a man named Robert Plot. He was an Oxford professor, and he wrote about crop circles formed in light on his farm, and he even drew pictures of them. This is Robert Plot's drawing.
I don't really know what I'm looking at here. There is in the bottom right, there is a circle with a square reminiscent of a Chinese coin.
That is the formation found in the field.
And then I don't know what I'm looking at in the top left.
I'm assuming that maybe like him trying to portray what could have come down from the sky. If you see like there's a square in the middle and like a circle around it, because he doesn't know where that's coming from either. Now, but that's not the first report either. There's also a report from the 9th century. The Bishop of Lyon, France, Abelard, wrote of parishioners taking seeds out of the flattened circles in the field for fertility rituals, or possibly devil worship. The weird thing about this report is that he doesn't mention the circles as being a strange part of it. He's more concerned that the parishioners are taking seeds from it, almost like this is a more common thing than it should be. And if we go back even further, there's even talks in the books of Enoch, some of the first recorded history in human history, talking of crop circles. It mentions lightning leaving these strange marks on the earth, similar to crop circles. So these go back for we don't know how long. And as I said, they were found all over the world. There have been crop circles found in Brazil, Russia, England, Antarctica, America, Canada, all over.
What kind of crops do they have in Antarctica?
Well, some of them aren't even like crops. Some of them are just in the dirt. But the majority of crop circles, and I'm talking like 80% of them, are found in one region in England, and that's around Wiltshire in South England. Since the 80s, over 30 formations have been found per year in England alone, and an estimated 10,000 internationally. Back to Colin Andrews. He got really interested in this topic, and he's an intelligent man, and as he called around and asked about these, he got in contact with some other people who people thought could help him. Two men, Pat Delgado and Dr. Terence Meadan. Terence Meadan was the head of tornado and storm research in Britain, and Pat Delgado worked at NASA. He tracked the Mariner project, which is a project to send 10 probes to Mercury, Mars, and Venus for the first time in human history, and his job was to track the probes. So these are intelligent dudes. These aren't just quacks. As he did his research into the topic of crop circles, he found some strange things. The plants weren't dead. They were just bent over. They could still grow. And they were in a swirling pattern. They would go around and then swirl back as they stacked up.
Almost as if somebody with a board on their feet stomped around in a circle.
Almost. And honestly, that's the main theory, and we'll get to why that is the big belief even now. But some of these are strange. They're in a very good pattern, and they're intertwined. Some of the crops are actually braided together as they swirl. Also, a weird part about these formations, there's no tracks in or out. They couldn't find any disturbances in the soil. Another thing weird about these crop circle designs is the soil isn't disturbed inside. If somebody was inside stepping on it, the soil would be munched up underneath all of the wheat, but it's not. It's completely fine, untouched. So this was taken actually pretty seriously. In 1985, the British government actually came forward and began a study on crop circles. They started like putting into actual efforts to figure out what these things were. Earlier, after all his research, Colin Andrews actually wrote a book called Circular Evidence, and that was a bestseller, releasing all of the findings he had found about crop circles up to that point. Now, Colin Andrews actually wasn't seen as like a joke or a fringe scientist or anything like that. This was taken as real evidence and a real investigator. He had real guys on his team like Pat Delgado and Dr. Meehan who were actually intelligent people and high up in the community. Are you still stuck on the board theory?
Not really. It was just something I said because it's something that I had heard before in the past. Really, the only thing I'd heard in the past. I have no other explanations. Maybe someone was just really quick at braiding corn as they pushed it down.
Honestly, there is a lot of fakers on crop circles. They are very easy to fake.
Well, we do know one thing.
Mhm.
We do know that the Kelly Hopkinsville goblins float.
Mm-hmm.
So that would explain the lack of disturbances in the soil, as if little floating aliens perhaps were braiding the corn and pushing it over.
You're supposed to be a skeptic.
Oh, you're right.
You're already on my side. We're only 10 episodes in.
Maybe it was interdimensional Bigfoot
That seems more likely.
playing pranks on the British.
Hey, they don't know what Bigfoot is. Big hairy bloke just stepping on weeds.
Bit of a bell end to that guy.
As this research began to gain momentum, the British government took notice. And they actually wanted to help Colin. And this started an operation called Operation Blackbird. This was an operation to get video evidence of a crop circle being made. Operation Blackbird had 3 weeks to film a crop circle being made in real time. They had cameras surrounding a massive area in a field that was owned by the Ministry of Defense.
Sorry, were they making the crop circle themselves?
No, this was a goal to find how they were made.
Their goal was to capture one being made by whatever was making them.
Yes, they wanted to figure it out because people were like, maybe it's hoaxers, but there's things that pull us away from hoaxes. They had cameras surrounding the entire field. They had infrared, they had night vision, you name it, and it was 24-hour surveillance. This was funded by the BBC and Japanese national television. Strange, but yes, it's true. The land was guarded by military to protect from hoaxers because they didn't want anyone coming on here and interfering with the land. Well, it didn't take long. Day 2, a crop circle was made. Quickly, Colin Andrews announced it. We have a crop circle, live television, it's here. Everyone around the globe is watching. This is very big news. They go out into the field and they find the crop circle. It's right there. And right in the middle of the crop circle, an astrology board game. It was a hoax. Colin Andrews was seen instantly as a fringe scientist. His credibility was thrown right out the window. And he was honestly perplexed. If you watch the actual footage, his quote is, "Someone's having a laugh." He looked so defeated. And actually, this caused Pat Delgado to retire from all of his careers. He retired from NASA, retired from research, never did anything again, and left it.
Just devastated.
Devastated. This was 7 years of research. This is in 1990. Army guys are coming up being like, "What's this? We funded you. And you bring us a hoax?" Kind of putting it on him. This ruined Colin Andrews' mainstream reputation.
Well, hold on a second.
Mm-hmm.
What did the cameras catch? How did the military not see anything?
That's a good question, isn't it, James?
I hope so.
It is, buddy. And we'll get back to that.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I thought you were passing right by it.
I told you. This is where I thought
the redemption arc coming up.
There's a lot going on in this. Trust me. This is why I've had 4 hours at most of sleep this week. No one who's listening to this can see this right now. My eyes are bloodshot. The next year, a paper came out called "The Men Who Conned the World." 2 men, Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley. These men claimed to be the culprits of every single crop circle. What they said they did was they had a board with ropes and they would twist some wire and hang it from baseball caps so they could aim down the wire with the circular part at the end, and it would line up the crops to make it almost look perfectly straight. Well, that came out, and that was it. Done.
It even made it to me, and I don't know anything else about crop circles.
And it made it to the rest of the world. And since then, people have considered that's the culprit. But their stories didn't quite make sense, because when they would step on the wheat, it would kill the plants. They'd all snap. This was not seen in other crop circles. Also, their designs were good, but they weren't perfect. Lots of them didn't have straight lines. They were off by a little bit, and I have a picture to show you of one of their crop circles. If you notice, in a normal crop circle, that would be a straight line right across, but it's on an angle no matter what. It just bends. So it's not perfectly straight like other crop circles. Also, the designs are very simple.
That is just two circles with the line that doesn't quite line up center to center.
Yes, and these are two 60-year-old men, so they claimed they would do that in a night. So that didn't make much sense. Also, they said that they started in 1978. Sometimes they said 1973. Sometimes they said 1976. They could never get the year right. They also started to claim more crop circles as people brought up more crop circles. For example, if someone would claim that they found a gelatinous substance in the circle, and Doug would say, "Oh no, that was airplane waste that struck me in the head. Sometimes they dump it over there, and I remember bleeding from my head walking back to the car after making that crop circle." That doesn't line up. It's illegal to dump waste over land.
People never do illegal things.
No, they don't, but an international flight, you wouldn't do that. People would also say, "Hey, we found a strange metallic substance dusting the crop." And then he would say, "Oh yeah, I would crumple up iron and sprinkle it around the crop." And then all of a sudden, all of his fakes after that had iron. All of his fakes had that substance. And he would adjust them based on what people told him. This was suspicious. He seemed to change his story with what people came forward, almost like he didn't know much about the phenomena.
So, are you saying he kept making them after he came forward with it?
He said that he said that he would keep making them. Yeah, and he would go give more examples. But through the 80s, he would say, "Oh yeah, I did this." All of a sudden, but in the other ones that were past fakes, because these guys did probably about 200 of them, maybe. I'm not saying these guys didn't do any of them. They definitely did do some of them. But as you can see, they weren't that intricate.
Yeah, the poor imitations.
Yes. So these things didn't really add up. Also, the more complicated they made the design for them to repeat, the worse it was. And there was even one point where Doug just gave up because he couldn't get the size comparison right. He also claimed that he was the culprits of a crop circle called the Cheesefoot Head crop, but it had no prints. So they were asking them, "How did you get in there if there was no footprints found?" He claimed they pole vaulted. So apparently two 60-year-old men, after a couple pints, would pole vault into a field, make a crop circle, and then leave.
And no one's arresting these guys for vandalizing crops?
No, that's the weird thing here, okay? So these guys were about 60 years of age, between 60 and 70. They would pole vault into a field, and they would make these crop circles and pole vault out. Well, that's what he would say for the no tracks. But the thing is that lots of these crop circles are actually made in the growing season, between April and September, October, in the summertime, summer months. So in England, where these crop circles were found, there's only about 4 hours of night at this time. So these 60-year-old men would pole vault into a field, make these crop circles, and pole vault out with no one noticing them. And some of these were right beside frequently traveled roads. And nobody saw anything?
That's pretty impressive.
It is pretty impressive, but that makes no sense. So it just seems like someone's adjusting their story to fit something. I have a picture of the Cheesefoot Head crop circle for you as well.
This one's a real one or a fake one?
This is one that they claim they did, but this is the one where they claim they pole vaulted into it.
Kind of hard to get scale, but it looks pretty large.
It does look pretty large. I don't know the exact dimensions of it.
It is a large circle in the middle with 4 small circles around it, evenly spaced like a 5 on a die.
It's a very simplistic design, but that one had no tracks going to it. So that's where the pole vaulting started. So it's just strange how much they're changing their story if this is truly fact. And again, the biggest part about all this is it would kill the crops. Also, it is a crime. People have been charged for making crop circles. Why are these guys not getting charged? Mm-hmm. They fully admitted to it. And they actually became like somewhat pseudo-famous from it, like the men who conned the world. And for some reason, they're not getting charged. The next year, 2 kids got charged for doing crop circles. How come these guys aren't? These are all more questions that kept being asked.
Maybe they are government plants.
Maybe they are.
Uh-oh. I'm getting a little too good at this guessing thing.
This goes deep, James. It goes really fucking deep, bud.
When does the CIA get involved?
Oh, we're not there yet.
Oh my god.
I know. So after this, even though Colin was seen in the mainstream as a bit of a fraud, it didn't discourage his research, and he kept researching. At least the fringe people or the people on the outside interested in this stuff took his research seriously. So he kept looking. But also, other scientists began investigating. And that's where we get introduced to Dr. W.C. Levengood. He is a scientist out of Wisconsin, and he began doing samples and control groups of plants that are outside of crop circles and inside of crop circles. And he found some pretty interesting stuff about them. How much do you know about crops and their anatomy, James?
Not a ton, I suppose. Plants grow upwards. They get big enough you cut them down.
That's kind of all I knew as well. But I began doing some more research. And I began reading about Dr. Levengood and what he found in his studies. So each crop has a thing called an apical node, which is at the very bottom of a plant. It kind of looks like the plant's knuckle.
Now, when you say crop, are you referring to a specific crop or crops in general, as in wheat, corn, peas, alfalfa, all that sort of stuff?
Crops in general.
Okay.
If you look at the very bottom here, at the very base of the stem, there's these little tiny bends here.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Levengood took a look at those, and that seemed to be where all the crops would bend at. They wouldn't break, they would just bend. And also the apical node seemed elongated or ruptured in the crop circles compared to the ones that were outside of the crop circles. The only way he could recreate this is if he put them in a microwave, and it would cause what's called like an expulsion cavity, kind of what you see with popcorn.
Right.
The thing is that this can only happen from inside the plant. It's impossible to hoax. He also noticed that in crop circles, the seed had increased in growth. They grow a lot faster and the root systems were a lot longer. He also noticed something strange. The wheat that was inside the crop circles had a 50% increase in protein levels. But here's where it gets really weird. In the soil, there was found to be magnetized iron all throughout the soil. And it also was embedded in the plants, like fused in the plants without damaging them. Now, there is some iron in crops.
Yeah.
There is actually 0.4 milligrams per gram. However, in the crops, that ratio got shot up to 50 to 100 times more inside the crop circles. This actually matches up with some of the more genuine crop circles because everyone reports this strange shine or gleam to the crop circles with inside. There's a strange shine. You can see it from the pictures from high above. Also, another strange thing about this iron is this iron was specifically meteorite iron. It was something we would found from like a meteorite, not something on Earth.
They find that out with like the crystalline structure of the iron.
They could test it and like do it out. Like, this is stuff you'd find from meteorite. And with this increased growth, this could only be replicated when he shot the plants with radiation. And farmers report seeing a strange mist encapsulate the area where these were formed after they find them in the morning. But it's not mist, it's steam. Almost as if it got cooked by a very direct heat, causing these nodes to burst or bend. It's extremely unnatural. Another thing about the magnetized iron found is that it was spread linearly. It was not random. It just surrounded the formation. It wasn't more in the center, it was in a certain area. And that goes with all of the crop circles that were found. He also found the people that were into the crop circles were affected by what seemed to be radiation. There was a woman who sat in the center of the crop circle for 2.5 hours, and she was monitored by a doctor. This was true. She sat there for 2.5 hours, and she had an enlarged thyroid. After those 2.5 hours, her thyroid shrunk by 40% while monitored by a doctor. This also leads to other weird parts that we've heard in past episodes. In the crop circles, electrical devices tend to stop working, and compasses tend to go wild. Almost like an electromagnetism.
Bermuda crop circle, if you will.
Bermuda crop circle, something we just talked about. And doctors even actually advise pregnant women or people with pacemakers to stay away from them because they don't know how it would react to them. This is an actual thing that's advised. So what are you thinking about all this? This is actual science now that's been involved with these crop circles. And I actually have pictures of some of Dr. Levengood's research for you as well.
I would love to see some of those photos. I don't really know what I'm thinking at the moment.
It's weird, right?
It's weird. Like usual, I say this all the time. I assume you're not lying to me, and you do really put it in the work to make sure you're not just bullshitting.
James, I thought this was bullshit. I am not joking. I would get home, I'd have dinner, I would come down here, I would start like researching at like 6:30 at night. I would stay down here till about 12:30 in the morning, 1 in the morning, go to work at 6 in the morning. And that was every single night. I would come down here and research, and I would double check everything because this was so wild. I didn't believe it. But it's true.
So we got radiation, we got iron, we have magnetism, we have enrichment, all in these crop circles.
Yes. And that's another way you can tell the difference between a fake and a real one. So from the air, they both look the same. The fake ones might look a little more janky, but when you go down into it, you find these strange swirls where the crops are braided, and as they make layers, they go back and forth counterclockwise and clockwise. There's this strange magnetized iron surrounding it. All these different things that make the genuine crop circles stand out. Here's a picture of Dr. Levengood's research. This is one of the Control A, Control B groups of the crops he had. Photo B is the crops found in a crop circle. Notice the elongated apical node.
They look almost as if they're twice as long, and they're all bent over
Yes.
at maybe 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
A little bit more, a little bit less, depending on the one.
Another weird thing is not just the nodes, but stalks of wheat. The very tips of wheat, when they start to grow to their maturity, the tops kind of bend over once they hit the top because they get heavy. However, wheat has been found bent over, and those heads of the stalks have been bent straight, and they can't be bent back. And the only way they could replicate that was through shots of radiation. So that's two different crops, same effect. Here is an example of the expulsion cavities, like popcorn.
Yeah, kind of popcorn-esque.
Yeah. And that can only be done with shots of radiation, and can only be done from within the plant. It can't be hoaxed. He even took the plants out and compared them side by side. The ones on the right are the crop circle plants.
Yeah, they're all a lot thicker where after they bend off there.
Yeah. And that actually leads to the expanded root system they get. Those who were found in crop circles had expanded root systems, and they growed almost 30% faster than the ones that were outside of the crop circles. So there's a lot of stuff that actually points to like scientific evidence.
Sorry, did you say there was any residual radiation left there? Like, did anyone bust out the Geiger counter?
I don't know if anyone busted out the Geiger counter. I couldn't find anything on Geiger counters involved in the crop circles. And the thing is that this was really hard to research. Because when you try to research crop circles, the first thing that comes up is hoaxes. The crop circle hoax. Even on Wikipedia, they say this is a big hoax done by people in England. People largely believe it's a hoax. It's really hard to find the real information. You got to really dig for it, which I found really surprising. If there is all this weird stuff about it, why is it hidden so deeply, even on the internet? You can't find it. Even if I went on like Google Scholar to see if I could find direct articles, I couldn't find stuff. I had to really dig for it. And I would watch a lot of videos. They would say a lot of stuff and show things, but I was like, I need to find this for myself. And I did find it, but it took a long time to find it. All we know is that I couldn't find anything about Geiger counters, but the effects that are having on people and on the plants are directly related to radiation. And even animals don't go near the crop circles after they've been put there. And even afterwards,
Right.
after it's grown back, they still don't go in that area.
Right. So there's some evidence of residual radiation, perhaps.
Yes, but I haven't seen any Geiger readings. There could be, I just haven't found any. And this leads to something else that's kind of weird about crop circles. Sometimes they don't go away even after the farmer has plowed the field.
Well, it's funny, because I was just going to ask, fields get harvested each and every year.
Yeah.
Do those areas continue to grow better than the surrounding areas? Instead of circles in subsequent years, or flattened circles in subsequent years, do you have just larger crops in circles in that same formation?
We do. And also, it seems like the earth is scorched in the pattern. These are called ghost circles. And sometimes they last 2.5, 3 years after the crop circle's been put down. I have pictures one for you.
Oh, perfect.
Here is a ghost circle.
It looks like a plowed field with leftover little dead bits of vegetation, but then a complex circle of light green, as if there was a small amount of grass or whatever plants growing back there way ahead of everything else.
Yes. I have another picture of a ghost circle for you. There's a lot of pictures of ghost circles and regular crop circles. This one's a bit larger and more complicated.
Yeah, that's an odd one.
Yeah. And that's not even the weirdest one I'm going to show you, buddy.
Now, I assume some are coming, but so far I've seen 2 fake-looking crop circles, which were beyond simple.
Yes.
And then I've seen a couple of these very complex ghost circles.
Yes.
Can I see a photo of a complex crop circle?
It's almost like you can read my mind.
I'm sure you have lots of them.
There's so many. There's literally a website called Temporary Temple that sells prints of every crop circle recorded since the 1980s and has pictures of every single one. I just had to narrow it down to a few of the most mysterious ones.
Post all of the thousands of them on Instagram.
It was overwhelming. I really had to pick the ones that I thought were the weirdest. Another weird thing about these crop circles is they tend to appear around a few monuments in England. Silbury Hill, which is an old mound made thousands of years ago. They actually don't know the root reason it was built. Avebury, which is like a sister to Stonehenge, a bigger Stonehenge, and Stonehenge itself. And in this area, they have a lot of different formations found, including this one, called the Stonehenge Surprise. Feast your eyes on this, James. Up to the top of the picture, that is Stonehenge.
Well, that is a surprise. It's a really nifty spiral of circles with circles extending from the circles. Decipher that as you will.
I'll be posting these.
Does that follow the golden ratio?
Of like...
You know, never mind. It's not the golden ratio.
No, are you talking about like a fractal where it repeats as it goes
like,
down? Yep. That is a golden ratio, my friend. That's a fractal. That is what's called a Juliet. Every single one of those circles is perfect. Down to the inch.
I'm sure a couple of 60-year-olds could do that in a couple hours.
Here's the thing. The reason this is such an interesting one is because it's a Julia set, which is a type of fractal, or the golden ratio, as you put it.
Yep.
Which is the visual representation of a mathematical formula that repeat. Stonehenge has 24-hour security. No one saw anything that night. This formation is 915 feet long, or 279 meters. That's over a soccer field and a half long. There's also 151 perfect circles. And as you notice, this is a better picture of it. This is one that's right above it. There's a slight gleam to the outer side of the circles, kind of like that metallic residue they were talking about.
Yeah, that's pretty nifty.
Yeah, that was July 7th, 1996.
Good year.
Was a good year. Now, that wasn't the only fractal that month. Another formation appeared called the Windmill Hill Triple Spiral. It was 305 meters long. It's over 1,000 feet with 194 perfect circles. This is 2 soccer fields in a bit.
Now they're just showing off.
Right?
But what does it mean?
We'll get to that. The thing is that these are very complicated patterns, and they are mathematical, and they are perfect. Nothing in nature is perfect like this. This is made. People doing this perfectly is very unlikely, I find. A fractal that's perfect to the inch, that's over 2 soccer fields wide.
Done in the dark?
Done in the dark with 4 hours of time.
Well, it could be more than 4 hours.
No. At the time that these were made, they had 4 hours of darkness.
Damn.
Yeah, that's nearly impossible. Those are really weird.
I'd say so.
And the thing is, you're talking about what do they mean? What's the message?
Yeah.
Well, it's largely believed that in our universe, math is the universal language.
Mm-hmm.
So if something came to talk to us from another world, it most likely wouldn't be using a language. It would be using numbers or formulas to communicate.
Right.
And lots of these crop circles are very complex algebra and formulas that you can actually deduce and try to find an answer to. There's even like complicated formations that relate to finding the circle and the square, which can only be found by using the number pi. Very advanced stuff, relatively speaking. So something with intelligence is making these. Now, what if I told you we knew what was making these? What if I told you I had a video?
Well, then I would tell you that I would like to see that video. And I would also tell you, if we knew what we're making these, then it wouldn't be a mystery.
Very good point. This video was taken by John Whaley. Now, we don't know if this is fake or real, but it was made in 1996. So digital effects were not of the highest caliber at the time. This is the video that John Whaley took.
Countryside, rational explanations aren't quite so easy to come by. Oliver's Castle, Wiltshire, 1989.
There's a couple of lights down there somewhere.
This controversial film appears to show strange objects hovering above a cornfield. Below, complex circle formations appear.
What do you think of that video?
It's
perplexing.
It's perplexing. It's hard to come to grips one way or another whether it's real or fake, because those circles kind of just appear all kind of together,
Yes.
and they seem almost to like fade in a way. It didn't really look like stuff falling over, if you will.
It was a shitty camera from 1996. They weren't great at picking up every aspect.
And it was dark.
It was dark. This was early.
There was 2 white dots, essentially.
Yeah,
kind
orbs.
of going in circles around.
Mhm.
My first thought was like, oh, there's a couple of birds or a couple of bats.
Mhm.
But they just kind of, this is a short clip. They circle around a couple times, the circles appear, and then it just kind of ends.
Well, that was a legitimate crop circle, because I've got a picture of the crop circle for you.
Well, let's see it.
This was the crop circle allegedly made by those orbs in the video taken by John Whaley.
This is a different angle. This is a top down. It does kind of look like what you could kind of make out in that video.
That is the one.
And I take it that someone has independently verified that that's the same area and that wasn't there ahead of time.
Yes. Now, we don't know if that video is genuine, but we also don't know if that video is fake. And it's also not the only video of orbs surrounding crop circles. I got another one for you.
Perfect. I love me the evidence.
I got a lot of it for you this time. This is why I got really excited. I was like, I gotta make sure all of this is fucking real.
We got one artist rendition of an alien scratching his ass.
That's basically usually all I got.
And it's from Kentucky.
There'll be an orb appearing on the screen.
Well, it looks like the crop circle's already there. There's people walking inside of it.
Yep.
The camera is just panning over it's following the orb. You can barely make it out.
Yeah,
I'm very impressed at their ability to follow it. I can barely see it.
me too.
2001. Kind of looks like a bird.
A little bit, but
It's hard to tell, but it almost looks like flapping. Now this other camera says 2000, so I don't know what year it is.
It might be multiple videos.
Crop circles, balls of light. That's a helicopter.
Military helicopters have reportedly been seen chasing these balls of light off the crop circles.
I mean, if it was a bird, that bird's moving
Yes, very fast.
very fast.
It shines too much for me to be a bird. You've seen birds in old videos like that. They don't glow like that.
That thing is going way too fast.
Yes.
Unless it's like sped up. There's no seconds counting up on the timestamps of the videos, so you can't really tell the speed of anything.
Yeah. So what do you think of those videos? We have multiple videos and multiple reports of orbs of light surrounding these crop circles and making them.
They're very small. Or they look very small, at least.
Yeah.
They could be very far away, but they're also, like I said, moving very fast across the... They look as if they're moving very fast across the landscape.
Mhm.
Again, there's nothing really to base off of how fast the camera is panning and how fast they're actually moving. But it wasn't also just perfectly centered in the frame. It was moving around and stuff. Like it was being tracked by the camera.
And the thing is that this does match up with what people have reported when they say they've seen crop circles being made is big balls of light creating these strange formations in a field.
Could it have, just for the sake of speculation, a reflection of light off of something higher up could make it look like as if there was a orb of light shooting across the landscape? I've moved my phone around with sun coming through and had light going around the room.
Yes. Most of the time, though, that means something is reflecting to create it to go down. So there's nothing really there that could do that. They're on a field. So there's like a slight hill.
Plane or a helicopter or something in the sky.
Yeah, but
Weather balloon.
Yeah, but it wouldn't move like that. It was too erratic, too fast. It changed speeds. If it was like a plane or like...
the erraticness was what makes me think of a light reflection, because if it was... I feel like... I don't want to say a ship, but some sort of something, some paranormal thing would move maybe in a straighter line.
There has been reports of them sometimes moving a straighter line, sometimes being more erratic. Balls of light tend to be more erratic in what people have reported about them. And if this was like a glare off something, it would hit the ground. It's not hitting the ground. You would see it bend along a tree or along some of the grass. It's not doing that. It's kind of moving independently.
Yeah,
And
fair
it's
enough.
staying rather still. Well, not still, but it's not curving with the terrain.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So it's interesting. I'm not saying it's aliens. I just say it's a weird video. And we have multiple videos to show about this sort of phenomena.
Gravitationally propelled ball lightning.
Now we're getting to the real talk.
So that first little video clip there, did any of the people walking around that crop circle see the ball of light in the middle of the day flying away from them? Or did just the camera somewhere off in the distance magically pick it up?
Just the camera, and I believe the man had some people with him up on the hill. The rest of the people appeared to be looking down at the crop circle, and this seemed to have some height to it. It seemed to be up in the air quite a bit. So I don't know if anyone reported the balls of light in that video, but I know that people do claim to see them around these formations.
You'd think if most of these are done at night, then the balls of light would be fairly easy to see by people.
And that was in the day.
Yeah, those were in the day. So that's what makes me think that it would be even easier to see at night.
Yeah, the first video was reported 4 in the morning, early in the morning. The other videos were in day, and I kind of laugh at the other ones not because they look fake, but because it almost looks like the light's admiring its work. So I kind of laugh. It's like a criminal going back to the scene of the crime sort of thing. It makes me giggle a bit. But
just taunting people that are standing there.
Yeah, haha, you're walking through my radiation, bitch. I got one more photo for you, James. This is probably the most famous crop circle of all time. This is called the Milk Hill Galaxy Spiral, and it was found in Wiltshire, August 14th, 2001. These are all within the same area of southern England. Feast your eyes on this. Yeah, there's a lot to that one, isn't there?
They're running out of space to add more spirals in each of these.
Yeah.
I'm just following along them, trying to look at discrepancies between them.
These circles are near perfect to the inch, which is almost impossible.
Whoever or whatever made that, it's very, very impressive, regardless.
It is. And the reason this one is the most famous,
just the sheer scale of it?
It's huge. It has 409 perfect circles of different sizes, 1,000 feet across, over 2 soccer fields. It's spread over an area of 700,000 square feet. People investigating this crop circle had to ride bicycles to get around the entire area because they were getting too tired walking over it. And also this night, 4 hours of darkness. Not only was there only 4 hours of darkness, it was raining the night before, so the ground was extremely muddy. Not a single footprint was found in the area. No boot tracks anywhere in this 700,000 square foot area. And it rained. That's why this one is the most famous. And as you can see, it also has that glisten to it, like that metallic residue.
They all have a very light brass finish to them, almost.
Yeah.
I just kind of chalked it up to it being a field and, yellowy type plants, but it definitely stands out from the surrounding areas.
Yeah, it's weird. And again, once you go down inside those circles, those crops are intertwined. They go back and forth clockwise and counterclockwise.
Do you have any
bending?
Do you have any close-up photos of the intertwinedness of these crops?
Well, I'll show you an example up close of a bad crop circle. You see how some of the plants are sticking up and kind of not mashed down correctly? There's not a real pattern to them.
Yeah, those definitely look just trampled.
That's more what a man-made one would look like.
Right.
Now, a more spectacular one. It's so hard to find stuff on crop circles because the first thing you look up is hoaxes. So I'll look up the intertwined plants, the braided plants, and it's literally pages and pages and pages of how to hoax a crop circle. It's like they're trying really hard to suppress the actual information on crop circles, which I find very annoying. It's almost as if there is an actual attempt to stop the information of crop circles to get out. If we go back to Operation Blackbird in 1990, Colin Andrews began asking questions. How did someone get onto that field? It was under 24-hour surveillance. We had all sorts of cameras. We had the Ministry of Defense on our side.
It was the government.
It was the government setting them up. They were the only ones who had access. It was a very sloppily done hoax. The crops were all destroyed. This is not what he'd seen in other ones. Another reason that people like Colin Andrews think that it was an act to maybe suppress or divert information was because only a few miles away, there was another operation going on. an actual military operation to figure out what was happening with crop circles. This was on Silbury Hill. It was soon realized that Blackbird was an operation to distract the public from what was really going on just a few miles away. And when did this operation occur? The same night they set up Colin Andrews. If you told me at the beginning of this podcast that crop circles would be our first 2-part episode, I would have laughed you out of my house. But here we are. As said at the beginning, this case goes a lot deeper than I initially thought. Tune in next week as we dive down the rabbit hole of Operation Blackbird, and we start to pick apart the disinformation campaign against crop circles, and why the government would even do that to begin with. We'll see you next Friday, everybody. Words to the wise: stay out of cornfields at night, and don't go near those lights.